Hello and welcome back for our second annual Dines mock draft. We're 1 year later. We're coming back to do it again. We have got four of us on the podcast tonight. Myself, Devin Glant. I'm with Craig, Eric, and John. Boys, how are we tonight?
Good, man. Great to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Glad you're all back. Glad Eric's not on vacation again.
I'm just happy there's football again. Actually playing.
We're just watched CJ Stroud throw away touchdown to Tank Dell, so football's officially back, even though no one who matters will play in the next 3 weeks, but we're 4 weeks away from real football.
So it was so funny. I was watching the preseason games last night, just thinking I don't count the Hall of Fame game ever. So I'm watching it, and it's like this is the first preseason game I'm hyped, and then I'm actually watching it play. I'm like, oh yeah, preseason sucks. They were terrible.
Yeah, I thankfully we're not here to
it was
the rest
just
of the preseason. We did want to take a quick rundown of last year's drafts. I listened to last year's podcast, wrote them all out. Unfortunately, we didn't keep score, probably fortunately for me, because my team was absolutely awful. John, we'll throw to you. You jumped on it pretty quick and started ranking your team. You had a powerhouse team. What do you think looking back on your team from last year, and what are you going to change in this year's draft, and what were some of your favorite picks?
I was so excited that we were able to get these numbers back, and seeing how the draft went and the trash talk that happened during the draft, I was happy to see a lot of my picks going green. But I'll say, looking back, my favorite pick, if I can pick two, I'll say Nico Collins in the 11th round was phenomenal. CJ Stroud, no one knew what to expect as a rookie QB, and he took the league by storm. Both him and Tank Dell were amazing together. Tank Dell had a couple injuries, both played really well, but getting him Nico in the 11th and Tank in the 14th, I can't be happier with those picks.
Yeah, that was wild, and I won't lie, it pained me to see that 2 picks before Nico. For some reason, I took Zay Jones. After we had talked all offseason about how much we like Nico's breakout. Craig, I know you've looked at your team. What were your thoughts on your draft process?
Looking back, pretty strong first few picks, and then it just fell apart at the end. But I think I don't even know who's DPJ. I don't even know what that means anymore. My
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
That's what I was. All right, I was like, well, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that the people can't see the screen here. So Craig had the first.
That's what I was
pick.
saying. I don't know who DPJ is, but yeah, that was my 14th pick. I think the best pick was probably 10th round, Raheem Mostert.
Yes, easily.
He's kind of going at around the same time again, and it's going to be interesting to see if someone just goes ahead and jumps the gun here, if they really think that Achan's going to actually supplant him this year. But
yeah, he's not lasting around 10 this year.
I don't think so, right? But it's just it's wild how late he went.
Eric, you had an interesting draft last year.
A lot of shame. I can't think of a single player on here that actually probably lived up to the ADP that I got them at. As someone who's won quite a few trophies in the Dines fantasy football, I should say
a long time ago,
the Skinner Football Challenge. When I was a 4-time champion back in 2014, I was drafting really good. Now I've lost a step, but there's always a second chance, and I'm looking to redeem myself this year.
You were the Toronto Maple Leafs of fantasy football. You won a lot, but it was a long time ago, man.
There wasn't a second chance.
Yeah, there's not much to say about my draft. When my best pick of the entire draft was the 14th round, I took Jordan Love. That was an auto pick. I didn't mean to do that, so I can't even talk about this draft whatsoever. But we're moving on to this year's draft. So same rules as last year. We're going with a 12-team league. We're doing the draft on Sleeper. We've already randomized the order. Eric has rocked out with the first overall pick after moving down to number 11 last year, so he gets to kick us off. John's coming in at the 5th overall pick. I'm coming in with number 9. Craig again gets to get the back-to-back picks, as he is the 12th overall. So we're doing a half PPR league, just one quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and then 5 bench. So we're going to go 15 rounds deep. So
Cool.
that's what we did last year. So I just kept the same settings. We're going to see a Jake Bobo pick in the last round. I can guarantee that.
It won't be last round.
All right. And then without further ado, let's kick this thing off. Eric, you are on the clock.
All right. So
And he's gone.
a couple things here. This is an interesting position given. With this type of injury, the injury should heal within about 1 to 2 weeks if it's not major. According to some doctor, oh, for fuck's sakes.
So Eric is kicking us off with the 101 pick. Eric, which way are you looking?
All righty. So, as we know, Christian McCaffrey is dealing with a calf strain. The injury should heal in about 1 or 2 weeks, though, if it's not major. Apparently, this is an injury that only has an 8% re-injury rate once healed. So, the conclusion, we take Christian McCaffrey #1 still.
Yes.
You've consulted some doctors, I see. So you've done your research.
Yeah.
So CMC, I've seen a couple mock drafts where he's starting to drop to 2nd overall. I think Eric's right. I think he's going to stay as the 1st overall pick. Then we had a couple bots picking. So we had CD Lamb, Dallas Cowboys go #2, Tyreek Hill go #3, and then much to John's chagrin, Bijan Robinson goes #4 overall. So we're 4 picks in, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers off the board. We're going to resume this so John can make his pick.
Oh, come on, dude.
Can we talk about CD Lamb going #2? I'd be freaking out if I picked CD Lamb #2 right now. Seeing how Tyreek Hill just got all this money just given to him as here's some more money, not even a yearly extension, and Lamb doesn't have anything. He's not going to be playing until he gets contract. I'd be panicking picking him #2 right now.
You're seeing like a Le'Veon Bell thing going, Le'Veon Bell.
I would think so.
Le'Veon Bell thing where you would just assume he's going to start the year and then all of a sudden nothing happens for a few weeks.
I would think so.
I don't know. I feel like this is all. I mean, I like to talk about it too because it's the Dallas Cowboys and I like crapping on them, but I don't see CD Lamb not suiting up for them in week 1. I think it's just gonna happen.
It's sketchy though. 2nd pick overall, you'd be thinking about it. You'd be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking Amon-Ra, very solid Detroit Lions wide receiver.
The sun god.
Taking him.
Yeah, so that's a pretty safe pick. We all know what Amon-Ra is going to do every year, about 120 receptions, put up some good yards. That offense is always moving. So not a terrible pick at #5. It's interesting seeing how far he's moving up in drafts compared to last year. So after Amon-Ra, we got Justin Jefferson dropping down to #6, Breece Hall 7th overall, Jamar Chase goes at 8, and I'm on the board now at 9. I really like the top 8 guys in this draft, and I kind of hate when you get to 9. You're just kind of throwing a toss up. So I'm going to take AJ Brown here. I took Jahmyr Gibbs last year, so I'm going to mix it up this year and snag AJ Brown to solidify some receiver depth. After AJ Brown, we got Garrett Wilson going at 10. Jahmyr Gibbs went to 11, and now Craig, you're on the clock with the 12th and 13th pick.
So at this point of the draft, I'm thinking there's way more depth at receiver than running back by the next time I pick. So I'm just going to take back-to-back running backs here, and hopefully they're both healthy and have monster seasons. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley.
I can't fault you on that. I've done way too many mock drafts, and I find every time I'm at the very end of the 1st round, I'm doing the exact same. I'm taking those 2 guys, I'm securing my running backs, and then just seeing how the build works from there.
Like, I think you kind of have to. If you don't, by the next time I'm picking, I think all the running backs that you can just plug and play and forget about are gone, and you're just basically taking your chance that someone will be better than they're projected. And I don't know if you want to risk that when there's so many good wide receivers out there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So after Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, we had Kyron Williams go to team 11. Josh Allen, first quarterback off the board. I've been doing a lot of drafts. This is super, super early for a quarterback to go off the board that I've been noticing
Yeah.
lately. Kind of surprised that Sleeper is throwing us a little curveball, but
What's his ADP?
we will adapt. Again, keeping things interesting. Like Craig said, he kind of just fleeced the rest of the running back room there. I'm never going to trust Travis Etienne. Devon A-Chain, if you want to go big, that's very tempting. But I want a reason to watch him play, so I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
And just see what he can do up
I'm
in
so
Arizona.
curious. I'm so curious about him.
So after Marvin Harrison, we had Puka Nacua go. Still not dropping that far after his knee bursitis or whatever it was actually not that serious. Then HN goes at the 2-6, Travis Etienne 2-7, which puts John back on the board with Amon-Ra St. Brown on his team. Deep in thought.
Thinking about it.
If it wasn't the second pick, I'd be looking at Drake London. I feel like he's going to have a great year with Kirk Cousins. But I'm too skittish to pull the trigger based on the systems that I've seen him. And I know Arthur Smith is gone, it's a different system, but I think I'm going to play it somewhat safe here and pick a running back and just take Derrick Henry with Baltimore Ravens, see how that plays out. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Atlanta's like that reoccurring nightmare where you know it's just
It
a
is.
dream and it should be safe to take them, but they've hurt you so many times. It's so hard to go back.
Yeah, that's really not a bad pick there, John. Now you have a really solid wide receiver, solid running back. You're like starting a really good foundation of your team. We said it on the running backs podcasts earlier. Like I just think Derrick Henry's just gonna load up touchdowns this year. So that's a really good start to a team. Right after you considered him, Drake London went to team 4. Devontae Adams goes to team 3. Nico Collins, and we're back with Eric with back-to-back picks.
Yeah. So in this case, this is a little tough because there's a few wide receivers here. Running back and Josh Jacobs, I already got one of them. I kind of want to make sure I get an elite, reliable wide receiver at this point, especially because I'm not going to be picking for a while. So the guy who I always like puts up 1,000 yards every year, puts up 7 touchdowns every year, gets 90 catches every year, is my boy Mike Evans. Maybe a slightly bit of a reach, but getting a reliable player at this point, especially when I don't pick again until a bit later, I like that pick. My very next pick is a guy that I think in round 3 is an absolute is a pretty good value, who I do believe has round 2 value, and that is Isaiah Pacheco, a guy who is being touted as the workhorse for a high-powered offense, a guy who has a lot of praise in camp for learning how to pass catch more. He worked with a wide receiver coach in the offseason. Jerick McKinnon's gone, who was mainly a pass catching back. For those who listen to the most recent podcast, you'd have heard me say that. So I think Pacheco picks up more receptions. I also think the fact that they have now really speedy receivers on the outside, that the defense could be playing back a little, respecting the receivers, opening up some lanes for Pacheco. So that is why I have chosen him in round 3. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but I still like the value there.
I go ahead, Devin.
No, I was going to say, I think the Evans might be more of a reach, but I think Pacheco is perfectly suited where you picked him. I think that was a great pick.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
Kansas City Insider, what do you got?
Yeah, I was just going to say, again, like we already hit on it a lot last week or earlier in the week, sorry. But one other thing that we have to consider is last year, the offense stalled out a lot because of their lack of passing weapons, and they had to settle for a lot of field goals. And I see them getting way more red zone looks or goal and to go looks kind of thing. And I think that could really, even if his yards stay the same, it's going to open him up for more rushing options and rushing touchdowns as well this year.
Yeah, I think he's a great look. I'm not going to unpause the draft here because we have Brandon Ayuk going next. He is kind of dropping off boards. I did a mock draft yesterday. I mean, no, I know no one cares about my mock drafts, but I was the 7th overall pick. So I started with Justin Jefferson, came around to me, and Deebo Samuel. Like I had a choice of taking Ayuk there, but Deebo Samuel was there. So I was like, I'm going to take Deebo Samuel because if Ayuk's gone, that's perfect. And then it comes back around and Ayuk is there. So I started with Ayuk, Samuel, and Jefferson. And honestly, I loved my team. I thought it was so cool. That is only if, Ayuk does get traded. So Ayuk's going a little bit earlier than that mock draft yesterday. He's going at the 3.2. Right after is Josh Jacobs, the new running back in Green Bay. Chris Olave, New Orleans, with angry Derek Carr at the 3-4. John, back on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I normally don't like to double up positions here on the same team, but Sam Laporta, who was the tight end 1 last year, I can't pass him up. He's right here. I look at everyone else behind him, and I think I have to lock down my tight end position. I'm taking Laporta.
All right, so John's the first of us
Yeah.
to take a little onesie position with Sam Laporta.
It's not terrible because Detroit's going to score some touchdowns, and you have the 2 leading receiving options.
Yeah,
Like they're going to have a good offense this year. So
yeah. I mean, my only concern with Laporta is like a slight touchdown regression, just because getting 10 in your rookie season is like quite a bit. But he's a fantastic player, so taking him as the first tight end off the board is not a bad decision whatsoever. All right. Following Laporta, we had Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce go to team 6 and 7 respectively. And then Deebo Samuel did not slip to me. That was kind of a little bit painful there. I was really hoping to grab him. So I am on the clock with the 3-9 pick. And he's someone who didn't perform very well last year, but I think it had a lot to do with being slightly banged up in every one of the games. Is Jalen Waddle. He is fantastic. I'm going to trust that they find someone to play in the outside X role, and that he can actually get involved in some of the pre-snap movement and really open up. Plus, if something happens to Tyreek Hill, as he's like 30 years old, Waddle's in to explode this year. So I'm going to just snag Waddle here. All right.
yeah, he's already questionable. What's that injury for?
I don't know, just preseason stuff. Nothing serious that I've heard, so I'm not too concerned.
Okay, yeah. Minor unspecified. It could just be a rest day, probably not.
Yeah, exactly. At this point in the season, I'm not too concerned unless we're getting obvious reports of stuff where Eric has to deep dive with the doctors. So after Jalen Waddle, we got Stefan Diggs. Cooper Kupp goes to team 11. Greg, back on the board.
Yeah. Well, after my first 2 picks being running backs, obviously I'm going to keep on doing that. I'm going to draft Rashad White and James Cook. No, I'm going to take a couple of receivers here. First one I'm going to take here. I'm going to go DK Metcalf.
Love it.
He produced absurdly well, really good numbers considering the little amount of receptions we got. And I have to feel with the new offensive coordinator that they're just going to feed him the ball more and more. And I look to see him having an even bigger season.
Yeah.
Like his touchdown numbers were great. His yards per reception were great. He only had 60 catches in the year.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense when he's your best offensive player. So they have to give him more.
I think he's going to be huge this year. Actually, I'm in love with this new offensive coordinator. I think Metcalf's in for a huge season. I think he's one of the biggest steals in the draft, honestly.
Yeah. And my next wide receiver pick. Sorry, go ahead. If you want to pause it, you can talk about it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to throw in there. If you think about Seattle last year, they had one of the worst lines to protect Geno to make things happen. I think they were in the high 20s, and DK was still able to produce. They drafted this guard and Christian Haynes, where everyone's raving of how good he is in a guard. They just recently signed a new free agent in center, so they're beefing up their line. They're not seeing what they want out of their center, and they've started to address this early. So I see this year they're giving Geno more support and more time for DK to run his routes and get open and have those one-on-ones. So yeah, I think DK is slated to have at least, if not matching last year, a better year in performance.
Yeah, everyone talks about the tackles being the most important in the line because you want to protect that blind spot. But I don't think there's anything worse than getting immediate pressure up the middle, because then there is nowhere to go. So if they can bolster the inside like that, that's huge. He's actually going to have a pocket to step up into.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to do a quick count here of where we're at with with the receivers. But like John said, DK Metcalf finished as the wide receiver 15 last year, and you just got him at 17 for wide receiver. So I mean, it's going to be a great value there. That's a pretty solid pick.
Yeah.
Move on to your next pick, Craig.
Yeah.
What's
Next
here?
one. Next one, it's a bit of a reach for where I am, but I know he's not going to be there when I pick next. So I'm going Tank Dell. We talked about it before. I think this is CJ Stroud's guy. He's got 3 massive wide receivers there, but I think coming into the league at both as rookies, I think this is his big play guy, and I think he trusts him over the middle for the intermediate as well.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And like we said when we started off, like Tank Dell's already catching touchdowns from CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
He's already back in game shape. The injury is clearly not a factor. So I think he's going to be a big part of the offense.
And I think you mentioned it before the podcast that Stroud and Micah Parsons did, where it was kind of like pick your all-time or your current offense, whatever you want to say, offensive team. And he picks himself as quarterback, obviously. But he picked Tank Dell out of any other, like 3 receivers through history that he could have. And he picked Tank Dell. So there's obviously a connection there.
Forget the other 2. I think one was Calvin Johnson. And then he's like, and then in the slot, Tank Dell. I was like,
yeah.
That guy is just enamored with him. So
yeah.
I think that's in for a really big year. So we move on. Jalen Hurts is the 3rd quarterback off the board to team 11 with a 4.2. James Cook from Buffalo puts me back on the clock. So I started off my draft with AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Jalen Waddle. So I have 3 really good wide receivers, and I'm a big fan of. Logic would say that here I should really be looking at taking a running back. I don't like the running backs here. Rashad White is someone I'll never draft. And then you look down, Joe Mixon still hasn't even practiced with Houston, last I checked. Kenneth Walker is kind of intriguing. I kind of have I feel like the Seattle offense as a whole is going to be better, but there's a onesie position here that I just love so much, and I'm taking Trey McBride to be my tight end.
Trey's going to be crazy this year.
Yeah,
I think he might even land T1.
That's what I think too, and getting him in the 4th round is something I do very often.
With Marvin Harrison landing there, he's going to take a lot of the attention away from McBride. And the tail end of that season last year with Arizona, he was incredible. So now he'll be in a position where he's not going to be, the number 1 look. I think Trey is going to be, the next generation of tight ends.
Yeah, he was so good last year. I had him in my flex position because I couldn't leave him on the bench anymore.
Yeah,
like I had to have him in there.
I also had to put tight ends in my flex a lot last year, but that's because the rest of my team was crap. So after McBride, we had Michael Pittman.
Hold on. Whoa. What is this nonsense about Trey McBride and everyone tickling his balls? Okay, yes, he was an amazing tight end at the end of last year, but like I think he's still being way too pumped up here. Okay, if his downfield yards per target was not very good, which means he was always being checked down, and he never ever got good yards after catch. He's great. He's going to be a great tight end. I would never take him this early. Ever take him this early, because I don't think he has that good upside. Will he be good? Probably. Will he be a good tight end for somebody? Yes, but not in round 4. Not in round 4 at all. I'm just going the contrarian route, but I hope he does well.
I mean, that's
I'll just
fine.
say this way. Of the top, who do you think, Eric, are the top 5 tight ends this year?
Who are the top 5 tight ends this year?
I just did a show about this.
So 2 things can be true. I can think Trey McBride is a top 5 tight end, but I can also think he's too early in the 4th round.
I mean, I can get behind you saying I'm taking him too early, but when there's no other, like I can't take wide receiver. I'm not taking a 4th wide receiver. The running backs at this position are horrible. So yeah, I'm going to take a tight end a little bit early because
You had a mobile quarterback who has good passing numbers right there for you.
yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't take Lamar Jackson because he's such a valuable fantasy quarterback. Getting him in round 4 is pretty good.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but I have a plan for that.
All right.
Got a plan.
Everybody, but
Man's
guess what?
got a plan.
Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Let's
Yes,
go.
sir.
I will not be punching. But yeah, no, last 6 games of the year, 95 yards, 22 against Cleveland, but Cleveland was wrecking teams at the end of the year. 131, 43, 60, and 89, and all of them at least 5 catches, except for the Cleveland game again.
Yeah, I'm going to take the upside.
He's officially reliable, and I just see it getting better with more time with Kyler Murray, who was actually at training camp this year, healthy.
All right. So after McBride went Michael Pittman, Malik Neighbors, who I'm kind of torn on. Like he just keeps getting in fights and camps, and he seems really intense. I love the talent. I think he is amazing, but I just do not trust that Giants offense. I'm not taking him this year. DJ Moore from Chicago goes next to the 4.7. John back on the clock. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derrick Henry, Sam Laporta, so he can go any position here. He's left it open with his.
Just on that Neighbors point, like I don't even trust that organization until I see some level of confidence on the offense. I'm not touching a single player, no matter how talented they are. If Daniel Jones is still the quarterback, and it looks like after Locke's performance last night, he'll probably be. Like I don't trust anything. Like we saw what happened with Waller last year. Waller was like the one target that he could kind of reach out to, aside from some no-name wide receivers. And then Waller was a total bust. So I feel like Giants, you got to be real sure of yourself if you're drafting a Giants player.
Look at it this way.
In my opinion, anyway. Yeah.
Look at it this way. Whoever does draft Neighbors, you get an instant connection because you know Daniel Jones is going to be available with your last pick. So you can have that connection going. You don't have to worry about reaching for that. You have that connection.
Those stacks, eh?
Yeah, you can stack with your last pick.
Absolutely. And I am so happy that everyone is saying don't draft the Giants player so that Malik Neighbors can drop. Should I be in another position in drafting in an actual, when it actually comes time to drafting fantasy football, I will be so happy with Malik Neighbors dropping to the 4th round for me. He is having great camps, great reports from camp. He was blowing up the Lions secondary when they had joint practices together. And maybe this is reading into it too much, but every reporter from the New York Giants is saying this guy is the real deal. He's the most explosive player we've seen since Odell Beckham Jr. I am cool taking with a guy like that in the 4th round. He is that. I know it might sound crazy to pick a Giant, and John, I respect you. He is just that good.
That's a hot take. I think the Giants reporters are paid very well to say nice things. And don't get me wrong, I love Neighbors as a talent, but that offense is going to be a friggin' disaster. They have no offensive line. They have Daniel Jones. He's not getting the ball. He's going to get 150 targets, and they're going to be 15 yards above his head. He's not getting the ball.
So yes, my concern.
But he'll be open.
He'll be open.
My concern here is the offensive line. They're not, if they can get the offensive line
not the quarterback
a little bit. They did bring in a few new pieces, not crazy good pieces, but if they can work together as a unit, they have Andrew Thomas still there, who's definitely the best player on that line, and a very, very good offensive lineman compared to other people in the league. But yes, that is my concern. But especially if I'm in a dynasty or a keeper league as well, I am totally cool taking Malik Neighbors round 4.
Well, have at it then. He's all yours.
Dynasty does make more
not
sense.
anymore. He was already taken.
John, Malik Neighbors is gone. You can't have him. So you're up.
Yeah, so I'm going to zag to some of your points there, Dev, about RBs in this round. So I'm going to take Kenneth Walker. Just at his age,
he's the only one I like, to be fair.
Yeah, so he's only 23 years old. He has a hard time in some cases with injuries, but he really passes the eye test for me. And I think the way that the Seattle is going to use him this year is going to be more in the red zone. And I think they're going to bring in Charbonnet a bit more between the sticks. I see Kenneth Walker having an equal year as last year, and him slotting into my RB2 is I'm happy with him there.
So are you ready to collect him? I just paused it there because you have 3 seconds left.
yeah.
Get ready.
Make sure you're ready to click that draft button.
Boom.
Yeah, no, like I said, he's
it.
the only one around that area that I actually like. I think he's going to have a good season. I'm trying a different build, and we'll see how this absolute zero RB goes. So after Kenneth Walker goes Lamar Jackson to team 4, Rashad White, boo, goes to team 3. Joe Mixon brings us up to Craig, who is doing his back end picks with the
Not me.
pick of the 4th round. Hey,
it's Eric.
Oh, that's Eric. Sorry,
Yeah.
Eric, who's doing. It's because I listened to last year's podcast, and this is where you were drafting.
Yeah.
So I just assumed.
No, that's fair.
So we're
Eric
back.
is lobster stuffed or whatever his name is.
I don't look at your guys' names.
Lobster stuffed? What is it?
Lobster stuffed tacos.
Lobster
stuffed
stuffed with
tacos. Thank you.
So Eric is finishing off round 4 and starting off round 5 for us. Eric, where are you looking now? He has Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, and the old reliable Mike Evans on his team.
Yep. Basically right now what I'm looking for is that if I don't take a tight end right now in this position, there is a serious drop off in the amount of talent in tight ends that'll be available basically in the next round. And what's a nice thing is I have 3 really good tight ends here to take, either through Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, or Kyle Pitts, who I all actually really like. But I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid simply because there is so many missing targets and missing receiving yards based on Gabe Davis leaving, Stephon Diggs leaving, and Dalton Kincaid was a guy who did very, very well last year, even with those guys on the field. And when Dawson Knox was not on the field and injured, he averaged over 11 points per game at the tight end position. Now, Dawson Knox is still there, I freely admit, and he's a good player. So perhaps Dalton Kincaid, that's going to take away a little bit from him. But I do think that this is, they spent a 1st round pick on him. This is going to be the year where Dalton Kincaid does jump Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox will still be a part of the offense, but it's not going to be a big part of the offense, I think. And someone's got to take those targets and those yards away from 2 guys that Josh Allen was super comfortable with for the last few years, who they've replaced with new people who he's got to create new chemistry with. He already has chemistry with Dalton Kincaid, already has that rapport. I think he's going to take a leap in the he has all the factors there that I think that are going to make him take the next step, and that's why I took him for my last pick in round 4. For this pick here,
no, I'm not letting you get away with that.
Sure,
because you just tried to tear me apart about the Trey McBride pick 6 picks earlier. Now you're going to take Dalton Kincaid, who has a lower yards after catch rate, he's a lower explosive rate, and lower tight end potential than Trey McBride.
Volume is what I'm basing this pick on.
Okay.
This idea that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to allow Trey McBride to get open somehow is absolutely ridiculous. Marvin Harrison is so good, they're going to feed him the ball. Zay Jones, not a superstar, but the guy's a reliable wide receiver. It's not like all this opportunity is now in Trey McBride's hands because a bunch of a bunch of targets and receptions that were part of a very high-powered offense in Buffalo last year are now gone, and someone's going to have to fill that void. And the same argument does exist with Trey McBride, that there is the level of rapport there that he's built like last year, and they do have new receivers that do need to kind of get into the mix as well. I just see a lot more upside. We're talking about upside. I see a lot more upside with Dalton Kincaid. I do think Trey again.
You see more upside with Kincaid than McBride.
Paint me as a guy who's saying Trey McBride sucks. This is not what I'm saying. I am drafting Dalton Kincaid on his upside.
His real thing is he thinks Trey's a dumb name, and he just can't draft any Trays. I can't wait to revisit this next year. I want to revisit this next year and see what happens.
This one here, I'm kind of like, I'm not necessarily too happy with the players that I've left here to pick from. I think because, again, the talent pool drops off for wide receiver. I kind of have no choice but to just balance out my picks so far and make sure that I have two decent options for wide receiver, and two decent options for running back, and a fairly good tight end with good upside. This may be a bit of a reach, but I'm going to go ahead and take T. Higgins because the guy balls out with Joe Burrow, and I understand that Jamar Chase is on the other side, but I think for round 5, I'm getting decent value out of T. Higgins, and a guy who can, again, be somewhat reliable and put up consistently a nice floor for me every week in fantasy.
So I had T. Higgins last year, not reliable.
No.
The other thing, I honestly thought you were going to go Devonta Smith.
He would have been the other one that I would have gone with. He would have been my second choice.
Yeah, I was like, oh, here comes an Eagle, but no.
I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and hate on that T. Higgins pick. I think in the 5th round, it's fine value. You kind of hoping for a bounce back, but as Craig and I talked about in the quarterbacks episode that we did, I'm just really not trustworthy of Joe Burrow's wrists, and that's the only scary part. But I do like Higgins. I think he's going to have a good comeback year. That injury luck was horrible last year, so we'll see. I'm not going to yell at you for that one like I did with your Kincaid pick.
And he is playing for a contract. That's also
true.
That is a big motivator. He is playing.
He is playing on that franchise tag, and yeah. All right, so after Eric goes with Higgins, CJ Stroud goes off the board at the 5.2. Devontae Smith 5.3. Alvin Kamara, which puts John on the board.
Alvin Kamara going the 4th round I feel like that's unreal value. Like, he was in the mid-teens of the RB finish last year, and I feel like that's a good pick. What do you guys think? In the 4th.
I'm so.
It's actually the 5th, John.
5th, yeah.
I don't want to touch anything on New Orleans. Honestly, I have no interest in it. I think they're all going to take a big downturn. Like, Kamara's I'd value it more if it was a full PPR league, because he caught 70 something passes last year. Yeah. Despite missing the first 3 games of the year, he is super valuable in the passing game, but he has just lost so much of his explosiveness. There's no upside to him. It's just kind of a boring pick.
It felt like New Orleans last year. They had that play where it was an RB screen, almost every drive. Yeah, where Kamara would get that catch, gain about 3 or 4 yards, and just rack up the PPR points. If they're going to stay in that system, that's a really good second RB to have on your roster. But I agree, the ceiling's probably not there for Kamara this year. We'll see.
I didn't realize he's 29.
Yeah, he's
I did not realize he's been in there that long. Yeah.
All right, John. On the clock.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this pick, and it's so excited that I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm taking AR5 as a QB.
You son of a.
The few games that he played this past year, he just mirrors Cam Newton. And Cam Newton was Superman in Carolina. He just looks incredible to watch. He makes great throws. He's not afraid to run the ball, to his detriment. He runs it too hard, and then he blows his shoulder out. But hopefully that shoulder surgery fixes things up for him, and he can play the way that he wants to play. Because if he still plays the way that we saw those first few games last year, he's going to be so much fun to have on your team. And I can't wait to see more AR5.
He was a lot better than I expected at the beginning. And like you said, hopefully he's taken those 2 lessons where he learned how to get tackled properly. And he's less, I don't know, he's less like flailing arms, just falling as he does, and he actually preps himself a bit more for contact.
I feel like people also have noticed this since last draft. He was going in, round 14 or whatever, and now he's all the way up to round 5. So
after playing in what, 2.5 games, he's now
2.5 games.
He's now the QB6.
The eye test, and they're like, oh wow, this guy is something. So if he can continue and that shoulder isn't a massive problem, he's gonna be something special.
Yeah, it was that one game. It was that one game just before the injury.
Yeah, when he put up 18 fantasy points in 6 minutes of game time.
Yeah,
I can't stop quoting that.
Exactly
it's insane.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so I'm back on the clock, and I'm back with the same issues I had with my last pick. I don't really like the running backs here, but I bumped it off around. I kind of am forced now that I have to take a running back. So I'm actually going to go with David Montgomery. I think the Lions defense is actually going to be slightly improved this year. They essentially spent their first 3 draft picks on corners this year. So they traded a third for Carlton Davis. They got Rakestraw, and they got, of course, Harry Arnold. So it's young, but it's going to be an improvement. I think their defense is going to be better. So I think there's a bigger chance where they might be just grinding out games. David Montgomery gets more, like, stays as involved as he has been. I'm not huge on him this year, but I don't love him as my RB1, but this is just kind of how it felt to me. So kind of stuck with what it is.
Now, this is going to shock you, Devin, but I love that pick. I think because of Jahmyr Gibbs, who is going to probably be a great running back this year, David Montgomery is being overshadowed, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
The Lions, he is going to get a lot of time and a lot of touches close to the goal line. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. The Lions have far and away the best offensive line in the league. Their offensive line is amazing. And as you said, they're going to be leading late in games. He's going to be, he's a veteran who has a good head on his shoulders, who's going to know how to be smart with running out the clock. I do like David Montgomery as a pick in towards the end of round 5. So good pick.
Thank you. So following Montgomery, when George Kittle, another tight end off the board, and then right after him was actually the other running back I was considering, James Conner. I just can't make my entire team the Arizona Cardinals, so I had to skip over Conner. I think Conner's also super underrated. He plays really well when he plays. You just have to assume he's going to miss some games. So if this was one of our teams, not a bot team, you'd be looking at drafting Trey Benson a little bit earlier than he is. So now we're at the end of round 5. Craig on the board. Craig's got Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley to start off. At wide receiver, he came back with DK Metcalf, Tank Dell. So he's got a pretty strong start here. He's pretty even. Craig, where are you thinking?
I think this is the first pick that I'm probably going to look back and not love. But I just keep remembering watching him last year, and every time that A.J. Dillon got the ball instead of Aaron Jones, I was like, why? Aaron Jones is so much better. And I know he's on Minnesota now, but they still have Jefferson that's going to take attention away. And I just feel like as a good receiving back and an inexperienced quarterbacks or Sam Darnold, you're going to need to rely on the run game, and you're going to need to rely on a check down. And I just can't say no to Aaron Jones if he can stay healthy. He's still a good running back. So I think right now at the end of the 5th round or start of the 6th, however you want to do it, I think I have to take Aaron Jones here.
This floor is going to be crazy.
I could immediately next week I could change my mind on this.
Yeah,
but right now I've talked myself
10
into
points
it.
minimum every week.
I've talked myself into it at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened to me last year in our big league. I talked myself into it, and then the first game he exploded for like over 100 yards, and then he was running into the end zone in open field and pulled his hammy. It was not the same the entire year.
But even then, when he came back,
I was going to say, in the playoffs last year, he was a dominant part of that Green Bay offense. Obviously, on a different offense now, with a check down kind of game manager quarterback there. So you can talk yourself into Aaron Jones working out this year. I've just been burned too many times. I've been burned. I'm out on Aaron Jones.
Did you know that he's also 29 years old?
Yes, I'm very aware of that.
That is, I thought he has been in the league way longer than Kamara.
Yeah.
Same age.
I know that because I've drafted him every friggin' year.
Yeah.
So you're through back-to-back pick. How are you following up the Aaron Jones?
There's a lot of receivers I still would be okay with taking as my 3rd receiver, and I'm hoping there will still be one there when it comes back around to me again.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of rushing quarterbacks anymore. I'm going Kyler Murray.
Don't you fucking do it.
I just did. No, I'm not changing the preferences. Come on. How much time do I have left here? Click on Kyler Murray. God damn it.
No.
And I guess based on Devin's reaction,
I just punched Devin in the face.
Yeah,
that he was going to take Kyler Murray with this pick. But Greg, I do like the pick.
I was going hard Arizona stack.
Is a guy. Yeah, mobile quarterbacks are always so valuable in fantasy. Getting a quarterback like him in round 6 when all the other elite guys are sort of off the board I find is a really good pick. He's got Marvin Harrison, who's going to be a fantastic receiver. Who's
Trey McBride, tight end one there. Like
just his mobility is going to be something that's going to be so good for a team. I think getting him in round 6, even though he's actually projected to go more end of round 6, early round 7, maybe early round 6, I still think there's some value in him. So I like that pick.
Yeah, I hate that because I thought I could punt him one more round because I'm up next. I thought he would last 6 more picks. That's why I took David Montgomery. But it is what it is. I probably shouldn't invest all that into one offense as much as I believe in the Cardinals offense this year. So we'll just we'll move on, and I'll just continue to hate Craig in this fake league. So after you took Kyler Murray, Amari Cooper from Cleveland, possibly San Fran, who knows, went to team 11. Keenan Allen went next. So I'm back on the board. If I can't have my quarterback, I'm just looking at the best available here. Again, I'm just going to keep punting my running back and just figure that out later. I'm actually going to, normally right now I draft Jaden Reed, but I'm going to draft Roma Dunze. I think he has actually a higher possibility of taking over a big role this year. I think that Keenan Allen, there's always injury potential with Keenan Allen. And there's also the potential that Keenan Allen just plays that crappy slot role in Shane Waldron's offense that Jackson Smith and Njigba had to play last year, where you have a 0 depth of target and everyone on the outside eats. So I'm going to take Odunze for the upside and just take a flyer on another young, exciting wide receiver.
Plus, I just really want to watch Chicago games this year, so it'd be nice to have someone to cheer for.
Yeah, it's good to invest
I'm
in
so curious.
teams that you like. That's actually kind of what I'm aiming at like this year. There's a lot of players I like in these middle rounds. And the deciding factor, honestly, is like, who would I rather watch? Like, what offense is going to excite me more? So yeah, I'd love to watch Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, and them just cook this year. So I'm okay taking it's a little bit early than I would like to, but I'll take it.
And I think there's something for picking a quarterback in a rookie year with a receiver in a rookie year. We saw it with Stroud and Dell last year.
Yeah.
This could be like they just come up the system the same time, same new experiences, and they just go.
Yeah, and they have a history together. Like they already have a built-in chemistry. So he could just become like Caleb Williams' security blanket in year 1. So I'm pretty like I was really off of him. I'm very much rising on Roma Dunze in the past week or so. So moving on, we got to Joe Burrow went to team 8 at the 6.5. Kristen Kirk, super reliable receiver. I think that's actually a good pick. He was the other receiver I was looking at that position. He is just going to be a really safe floor with the occasional breakout game. So I think him in the 6th round is a really, really good pick. Kyle Pitts going to team 6 at the 6.7, putting John on the clock.
I have 2 players I'm flip-flopping right here in the same offense, both wide receiver. And that's on Kansas City, Craig. I'm looking at Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown.
Interesting.
My gut is telling me that Hollywood's going to fit in so well with this offense. But from the eye test last year of the yards after catch with Rashee Rice, I feel like they're going to want to move on that and continue developing that more, given Rashee, that was his rookie year. So I think I'm going to go with Rashee Rice here.
Whoa, so you said you're flip-flopping between Brown and Worthy? Did I hear that right? And then you're going to Rice? Or I thought Rice. You hit the Worthy. He did say Rice. I for some reason thought you said Worthy. My bad.
You're just wrong.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. No. Go Rice. Go Rice all day.
Yeah, 100%. Especially like we're getting this close to the start of the season, and there's been no announcement of any suspension. And it's not happening this year. It's going to be pushed next year. Is my completely not expert opinion. But we're getting so late that I'm looking to steal Rashee Rice in a lot of drafts.
It wouldn't surprise me that he becomes the feature wide receiver on that offense, which with a Patrick Mahomes offense would be unreal to get in the 6th round.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick.
So
He was too low on my queue that I didn't even catch him. I might have considered taking him over a Dunze. So I think you got a monster pick there.
yeah, he's his off-season receiver coach is the same one that CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase use. And you can see him kind of using those kind of sneaky push-offs at tops of routes. He's actually running some streaks as well. It's not just Brown and Worthy going deep. One-on-one on the outside, Rice has that ability to go deep and get it just because he's more physical, not so much speed. He's also apparently impossible to defend right now in training camp, running shallow crosses with slants.
He's impossible to defend.
Honestly, there's shallow crosses and slants. Do you guys remember Michael Thomas when he was in his prime slant boy?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I got that feeling that if there's they need the yards, they need to get the sticks, he's going to get himself open in the middle. And I don't know, and he's got the same kind of body type. Like, I don't know if teams are going to be able to stop him in his prime like this. It's a really good pick at this round.
A little bit too high of praise, but all right. We'll just move on.
Hey,
so
I'm projecting to what
I
I
don't
think.
know if anyone will stop him in his prime like this.
No,
Calm
like
down, Craig.
the slants and shallows across.
Down.
If they set him up the way Michael Thomas was set up, where it's just Breeze just is like, yep, here we go, quick pass, you're open.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's going to constantly just like, but you remember how dominant Michael Thomas was at that time.
Yeah, I do.
It's possible.
That was the last league I had to stack in with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara.
I'm just saying it's possible.
And then they choked.
Yeah, but you touched on Jayden Reed. I think he's also going to have a great year this year.
Yeah,
from what I'm hearing in camp, and how he finished last year, I think he's going to be the wide receiver one in Green Bay, and I think Love and him are going to have a great connection. I'm high on Jayden Reed this year.
Yeah, I'm massive on Jayden Reed. Like I said, I was going to take him over a Dunze, but I drafted Jayden Reed so much that I want to get a look at how my team looks without him. But yeah, getting Jayden Reed in the 6th round is wild to me. I think he's going to be fantastic.
A lot of risk there, guys. A lot of risk. When the other wide receivers were healthy, Reed didn't see a lot of time on the field when they were running 2 wide receiver sets, which they ran a lot. So that's the risk you have with Reed. Is he not going to surpass, a guy like Christian Watson? And perhaps now, if you say that he's good enough to maybe go wide receiver 2 at least, then maybe he gets himself in some wide and then 2 wide receiver sets and gets some volume. That's just the only risk. Not hating on that. That's just the risk.
See, my thing with Reed is that Matt LaFleur designed specific plays just for Reed more than he does any of his other receivers, because he's good like on handoffs, on sweeps. So he gets more creative with Reed. I do agree he's not going to get, like, I think if everyone's healthy, Romeo Doubs gets the most kind of targets. Christian Watson plays a lot, but they build the most around Reed because he's just so explosive and they can do so many different things with him. But then you take the health into consideration. Christian Watson cannot stay healthy. I don't believe that he's going to be healthy this year. I'm obviously a doctor, so I know that for a fact. And Romeo Doubs is bound to miss a few games. So when you kind of factor all of that, all of my personal feelings about their health, then that's why I'm leaning way heavy into Reed. But I was going to get to this later. I don't think there's a single draft that I do that I don't leave with at least 2 pieces of that Green Bay offense. I think they're all going so late. They all have such high potential that you might as well just be grabbing them at some point and just seeing which one, like, because you're throwing crap at a wall and seeing what sticks. And I might as well just grab a piece of one of the best offenses that's going to be in the league this year.
And what a great segue into my next pick here, Devin, because
crap on a wall.
It's crap.
End of the 6th round. I'm looking at my wide receiver 3. My first 2 picks were guys I'm like, all right, I wanted guys with good floors, reliable guys. Now I want a guy with maybe a lot of upside here. So once you unpause me, I'll go ahead and take my pick and explain why. So I want to pick Xavier Worthy because, such a high-powered offense in KC, a guy who's speedy and who's a burner like Tyreek Hill is, if he's going to be the next Tyreek Hill, it's not going to happen right away, but still a guy that I like the upside in to take as my wide receiver 3.
Yeah, no, he's fast. They're getting him involved in offense early. there's not much I can say. Maybe his targets won't be the same early on, but the same kind of thing that happened with Rice last year. I just see him getting more involved as the year goes on, and it's not just that he's fast; he's already a good route runner. That's the thing. Tyreek Hill took a couple years because he actually came into the league as a running back. He's already a pretty polished route runner. It won't take him as long as it took him. I think he's going to have a big impact on the offense this year.
Next pick, maybe you guys will clown on me a little bit, but I kind of wanted to, now that I got my wide receiver 3, feel like a guy who's got good upside as well at the RB3 position, and that is Zamir White. He's got a coach in Antonio Pierce who comes out publicly and wants to say he wants to play old school football. So what does that mean? Run the ball a lot, play defense. Last year when Josh Jacobs was hurt, Zamir White in the 4 games that he started averaged more than 100 yards per carry, and he got pretty close to or over 20 touches per week. And last year, although he isn't a guy who historically has caught a lot of passes and could get PPR value, in his 4 starts last year, he did show that he could catch the ball quite a bit. So, and also Antonio Pierce as a coach last year kept saying how, he always wanted to get Josh Jacobs the ball more and Josh Jacobs the ball more. So given that this is a guy, he's a bit of an unknown, but now he's got the starting job, has proven that when he can get into the starting job, can produce well. I like him as my RB3 in round 7.
Yeah. I mean, he made a good argument for sure. I think the reason I'd be concerned is just because I don't know how much the Raiders are going to be up, but he's a solid receiving back as well. So I think they have to keep him on the field.
So I agree with you, but again, the coach has come out and said, I mean, unless they're getting blown out tremendously, they still want to make sure they stick to the run.
The Raiders.
It's what they want to do. Again, a coach who wants to play grind it out, old school football.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's a good volume pick, especially this late in the draft when you look at the running backs available. Sure, if you want to just have a steady Eddie there that you can plug in on your bye weeks, I can't get too mad at you. So we're just going to drop back a little and recap from Rashee Rice when John picked. Right after went DeAndre Swift. I can't believe John passed him up in the 6th round. Terry McLaurin, then Jaden Reed, who we talked about, Eric with Xavier Worthy and Zamir White. Ronnie Stevenson from the Pats went with the 2nd pick in the 7th round. Evan Ingram goes next. Chris Godwin follows it up. Looking to move back in the slot in Tampa this year. He might be a good sneaky pick this late.
I like that pick. I like that pick, Team 4.
So, John, on the clock now. Give him a second. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Rashee Rice as his 2 wide receivers. Kenneth Walker and Derrick Henry as his 2 running backs. He already has both a quarterback in Anthony Richardson and Sam Laporta at tight end. So John is on the clock here. Pretty even roster. He can go any direction.
Yeah, I'm going to reach a little bit and fill up my 3rd receiver spot, and I'm going to pick JSN. I feel like he's going to take a big step this year. Love Tyler Lockett, but I feel like that's going to be the swap on the Seattle offense. It sounds like they've been designing a lot of plays for JSN to get more involved. The talent is there, and whenever he got the ball last year, rarely would make a mistake and would always, execute on the plays. So I'm excited about JSN this year in Seattle. I'm going to take him as my WR3.
Yeah, that's a reach, John, and I hate that you did it because I was going to reach for him. All right, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think JSN is going to have a bigger role in this offense this year. I don't think he's going to be stuck in the slot like he was last year, running these garbage routes. Like his yards per target was abysmal. It was 2 yards per target. They just did not run him properly. So I really hope this offense opens up him a little bit more. So we are going to roll out next. We got Hollywood Brown, going from the Chiefs as the next pick. Then Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren
back-to-back Pittsburgh.
That pick.
Yeah, I think Jaylen Warren's gonna be crazy this year. I just have a feeling.
That pick killed me. That was my next pick. I'm sitting here with only David Montgomery as my running back. Jaylen Warren was going to be my next pick.
John, let me tell you something, John. I had more than a feeling that Jaylen Warren was going to be good because there's a lot of stats that, and I honestly thought when I was picking Zamir White, I was like, I'm going to be able to get Jalen Warren based on his ADP the next time it comes around to me. And apparently not. Everyone had the same strategy as me. All it's going to take is Najee Harris either getting hurt or Jalen Warren showing that he can pass protect for him to be vaulted up to the RB1 spot in Pittsburgh. His like per touch numbers are amazing. He has really good advanced metrics. The guy is a very, very good runner and's got great speed and he can catch the ball. I think that he's a great pick, even in round 7, although I thought that 8 and 9, surely I would get him. But I do like Jalen Warren.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Jalen Warren there. I feel like he is incredible value late. He was really coming to his own at the end of the last year, and the way that he breaks tackles, he's going to make a lot of big plays this year, and I feel like he'll be a feature. Najee Harris will have his role. He's the type of RB that if you want to fall forward and make yards, he's going to get there, but I feel like Warren's going to be the RB to own in Pittsburgh this year.
He was their spark plug last year. Whenever the offense was struggling, they'd swap out Harris for Warren, and he'd get him a couple hard-earned first downs, and they would just go from there and sneak out some wins that they didn't deserve. So I see him getting a huge role this year.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's going to have one of the best running games in the league, I think.
Yeah.
And, I mean, grabbing either part of it is probably going to be beneficial in the 7th round. But if you're looking for upside, Jalen Warren is definitely the way to look. So that puts me on the clock. I've been punting running back as much as I can. I only have David Montgomery, which is kind of terrifying. And we're gonna go. we're gonna stay old, and I'm taking Raheem Mostert here. His role hasn't changed in that offense. That offense is explosive. He punched in a ton of touchdowns last year, and I just think I don't see him being supplanted in that kind of short yardage goal line role that he was so good at. Yeah, he's 31, 32, and injury risk is there, but I need someone who's going to put up points at running back, so I'm going to take him in the 7th round.
Yeah, I like it there. I mean, I'm not going to say too much except for a solid pick, good upside guy who's, especially if he's going to be a late round pick. I like it.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're gonna
lower risk than a lot of the other guys you could take at the same spot.
If they're gonna split carries like I think they will for most of the year, Achane went in the 2nd round, Mostert went in the 7th.
Yeah,
like
I think
really good value.
He is super valuable going so late. Like, I don't know why people are so scared off. At no point have they said that Achane is going to hold on to a lead back role.
No.
So, anyway, after me went a bot that picked DeAndre Hopkins, Tony Pollard, now in Tennessee, who was a 2nd-round pick of mine last year. He has a big red dash next to him that I'll never draft again.
Yep.
And that puts us back to the end of round 7, back-to-back picks for Craig.
Yeah, I really want to pick Nick Chubb here. But I already have 3 running backs, only 2 receivers. I feel like that's a luxury that I can't take right now.
Yeah, but you have an air spot.
I know, but and I also want to take a chance on McConkey, but the Herbert injury and that offense is scaring me off of it, even though I think he will be their number 1 receiver by the end of the year. So I'm just going to go with a couple safe picks at this point. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. I don't really like Carolina at all, but he's consistently getting open, and Bryce Young and Carolina are going to have to throw the ball because they're going to be losing a lot of games. So I'm looking at some garbage time points, receptions there.
Yeah, a lot of people are gonna like maybe Johnson about New York. Are just gonna avoid Carolina players because of that reason. At the end of round 7, like you said, it's a guy who's gonna get consistent volume, probably has a decent floor, and an offense gonna be passing a lot. Maybe I'll have to double check if their line actually got a bit better to protect Bryce Young. But
can they get worse?
2 guards.
Yeah, so I mean, I do like the pick for the last pick in round 7 for your wide receiver 3. Yeah, I like the pick.
Yeah, I think we talked about this already, Craig, but I'm big on Deontay Johnson. I always have been, and I like how quickly he can separate, and if those guards can just hold up for Bryce Young, Like Deontay Johnson's in line for 150, 160 targets this year, because there's not much else on that offense. So it's going to be a not great ceiling pick, but that's what you're getting in the 7th round, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, like McConkey could hit big, but they need something more reliable for a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, the latest news about Chargers is I'm just like, why did I think I wanted to draft any Chargers ever?
Yeah, it's scaring me a bit.
They're cursed.
Yeah. And for my next pick, I do not have a tight end yet, so I should probably pick one.
Oh,
I'm gonna
going for the
go
rookie, are
with,
you?
what's that?
Are you going for the rookie?
I'm not. I told you I'm going safe here. I'm going Jake Ferguson.
Ah, that's the most boring pick of the draft.
It is super boring, but if you look at the depth chart outside of CeeDee Lamb, I don't think there's anyone that Dak Prescott and Dallas can necessarily right now rely on. So I think a lot of second looks are going to be up the middle to Ferguson, and I see him getting a lot more targets than he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right there. There's nothing left. Brandon Cooks, another year of doing the same thing, just running deep routes. Jalen Tolbert,
Same kind of thing.
They're not even trying to pump up Jalen Tolbert in training camp. Like he's doing nothing.
No.
So it's kind of a little iffy there in the depth room.
Yeah. So I think Ferguson's going to get a lot of first look, CeeDee Lamb's covered, double covered, whatever. Second look, oh, there's Ferguson in the middle. He's found the zone. Throw it.
All right. So after Ferguson, we went Calvin Ridley, another new member of the Tennessee Titans. That actually in the 8th round, I think that's a really good pick. Jordan Addison, Craig and I talked about. I'm not touching. He just don't know what's going on with his suspension or potential looming suspension. Just the vibes around him seem bad right now, and I don't think whoever the new quarterback is in Minnesota can really support 2 wide receivers. So I'm kind of moving on from Madison for this year.
Minnesota really dropped the ball letting Cousins go. I don't think we talked about that enough.
Yeah, no,
they were not ready for that.
No. So that's going to be I'm sure we're going to do some talks about the divisional breakdowns, and I don't have Minnesota very high in their division. So that puts me up on the board, still looking for some running back depth. Still don't have a quarterback, so I did say I try to grab as many parts of the Packers as I can. And I could wait and grab Jaden Daniels in a couple rounds, but I think I'm just going to play it safe and take Jordan Love here as a he's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns. He doesn't give you much upside with the rushing, but he's going to score a lot of points, and I'm happy taking him in the 8th round.
Yeah, no problem with that. No problem with that pick. And at least you picked him this year, so you can take credit for
it. So right after me went Ladd McConkey, who we just spoke about. Dak Prescott goes right after. I couldn't take Prescott just out of my Eagles fandom, and like we talked about, the lack of receiver depth in that team. Devin Singletary is going to be a workhorse in New York. Went to team 6 at the 8.7. That puts John on the board at 8.8. So the pressure's on here, John.
I'm going to take,
This is when you shine in the late round picks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take, I only have 2 running backs, so I'm going to take another running back. I'm going to take Austin Eckler, Washington. He missed 3 games last year. He finished outside the top 25, but I feel like in that offense and how that they're rebuilding that franchise, there's a lot of opportunity for Austin to do what he does, catch passes, make a couple of yards, and late in the draft, I feel like this is a fair pick.
John, who are you kidding? Come on. I know that you've liked Austin Eckler for a while, but this is a guy who I basically had a do not draft on my board, and I'll tell you why. This was a guy who asked the Chargers for a smaller role at the running back, which is why they got rid of him. And they go to Washington, and a guy, Brian Robinson, is years younger, more explosive. Yes, Austin Eckler can catch the ball, but Jaden Daniels, if you look at his college stats, the guy does not check the ball down ever. So that really, in my opinion, limits Eckler's upside. I think he is one of the, he's he's got a lot of name recognition to him. And maybe if gosh, if Brian Robinson gets hurt and they just have no choice but to give him the ball. But who knows if they'll even give him the ball because he doesn't want a big workload. That's what he told the Chargers. I would never draft him. I apologize. I would never draft him.
So just to
That's
touch on
totally
your
fine.
whole, I'll let you defend John first before I chime in here.
Yeah, I'd say that's totally fine, but they paid him, a 2-year, $11 million contract. He's going to be involved in some capacity, and getting him in round 8 here, I'm not worried about that. He's just going to be a flex fill-in on my roster, so I'm happy with that. Taking that risk.
I would have flipped the table over if you took him in round 2. So I'll respect the round 8 because you have 2 other running backs ahead of him that you're probably going to start, and perhaps maybe you'll keep him on the bench and start a wide receiver in the flex position. Just for me, I had him on my do not draft. Him and DJ Moore, they are I think in for a huge regression, and they were both on my do not draft board.
DJ Moore in for a regression.
DJ Moore catching strays in the 8th round.
Seriously, what the hell? The guy's never had a quarterback, and he finally gets a quarterback, and he's going to regress.
We're not going to rehash DJ Moore. Craig, did you have anything to add on Eckler before we move on to your picks? Or Eric?
I just wanted to hear more about the guy asked for a reduced role, and it's not so much he asked for a reduced role. He said they want a guy they can hand the ball off to 300 times a year. I don't know if there's any running back that can do that.
And he said, "I'm sorry. Pass."
I haven't had the capacity to do that. That's not my game. He's not wrong.
No.
I don't know if there's anyone that can handle the ball 300 times in a year.
Derrick Henry.
Fair
Okay.
enough. All right, now
potatoes, tomatoes. That's a big size difference there.
All right,
I just had to defend the guy who won me the championship for the first time ever. You know.
Oh, that was years ago. Move on. Eckler's done.
Two
good
years.
for you. Good for you.
2 years. It happened.
Good for you, pal.
All
right,
I'm drinking the benefits right now.
I have to side with Eric there. I'm not touching Eckler. So after Eckler goes Jonathan Brooks, the rookie to Carolina. I really want to draft him in some spots, but you need to know that he's not playing for at least the first 4 weeks probably, and then the next 4 weeks is probably not going to be very good. So if you're going for a hero RB and you've got really good starters that might fade during the season, Jonathan Brooks is someone you can stash on your bench. So I really like him just depending on your build. Keon Coleman, the rookie wide receiver of Buffalo, went next. Rookie tight end Brock Bowers of Las Vegas goes at the 8-11, which puts Eric with his back-to-back picks up next.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on something that we talked about a little earlier on the call, which is, hey, Green Bay's got a good high-powered offense, and they don't have anybody who's ranked really high. Considering this is my wide receiver 4, and I'm probably drafting for my bench now, guys that I want involved in good high-powered offenses, I'm going to go ahead and draft Christian Watson with this pick.
Yeah, I like it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, in round 8, right? Why not? And to start off round 9, a guy that I'm really high on. Yes, he's behind James Conner in Arizona, and James Conner is going to have that role until he gives it up. But we have discussed in previous podcasts that he's usually a lock for 4 missed games a year. And the new rookie, Trey Benson, is a guy who could come in. He is a big back, super athletic. The guy was breaking tackles left and right in college. He's a fantastic runner. Again, a guy that if, let's say, for 4 games, I can have a clear number 1 running back without really much competition behind him on the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to take Trey Benson for my first running back bench spot.
Man, there goes my theory that you just hate Treys from Arizona. Damn.
Yeah, unfortunately, this Trey is not getting good reviews during camp, and he's currently 3rd on the depth chart. But like Eric said, the upside is there, and he definitely has a chance to swing up. So after Trey Benson goes is Nick Chubb, so Craig's not going to get a chance to draft him. Then goes Caleb Williams, which makes me feel better because I was thinking of holding off of drafting Jordan Love and hoping Caleb Williams fell to me. So that's pretty okay that I took Jordan Love.
I mean, it's possible that Team 3 would pick Love instead of Williams.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I did look ahead. I saw there's a few teams that needed quarterbacks, so I just decided to stake my claim on some Love, Zach Moss goes right after, which throws John and Austin Eckler back up on the board. as he ponders his next pick.
Be like that.
So John's got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashi Rice, JSN at wide receiver, Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, Austin Eckler, and again, Anthony Richardson, Sam Laporta as his onesie positions.
I'm going to take another safety net in terms of running back. I'm going to take Jerome Ford. What we saw last year on that knee injury of Nick Chubb, I feel like I'd be shocked if he can come back from that and still be the same Nick Chubb. So I'm going to put some money in Jerome Ford this year and take him as my RB4.
I love this pick as well because even though Nick Chubb could return at the end of the year, and it could be kind of crappy for someone who holds Ford, at the end of the year for playoffs, he's going to have a very big workload in Cleveland, and this could get whoever has him, in this case, John, off to a nice running start to start the year and collect those wins to make sure that you're going to make the playoffs. A good pick, John.
Yeah, it's a solid pick. It's interesting watching mock drafts how much further ahead Chubb is creeping on drafts, but with no really reports that he's going to be ready for week 1. So I think Jerome Ford is he's a pretty solid pick there. Right after goes the person I would have taken in Brian Thomas Jr. From Jacksonville, another rookie. Brock Purdy.
Team 7 going back-to-back QB.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Brock Purdy goes to Team 7, who just selected Dak Prescott. So they're just stacking their quarterbacks for some reason.
Yeah, go with a wide receiver 4 or a running back 4 there. My gosh.
We can't control these bots, Eric.
No, we can't.
Javonte Williams goes at the 9.8 pick. After terrible reports that he might be cut, he's actually been doing really well in camp. So I think
don't read into that at all. He's fine.
I think he's going to be the lead back this year. He would have been my pick because I'm still looking for a little more depth and a little more security at running back. So right now I'm torn between Brian Robinson from Washington. I think he's going to have a pretty decent role there, or Tajay Spears. I think Tajay Spears is going to be my pick. I just like the exciting upside that he has.
You know what? I can't decide which running back is going to have potentially a better fantasy season besides Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I will take Tajay Spears at his ADP all day over Tony Pollard at his ADP.
That's exactly my thought process. I looked at Pollard earlier and I was like, or I could wait 3 rounds and get Tajay Spears, and they are a 1A/1A. Like, they're going to do the same thing. So I'll just get the one that's going way later.
Yeah.
So right after Tajay Spears, the other one I was considering, Brian Robinson, goes to Team 10. Then Jaden Daniels as Team 11 doubles down on the exciting, explosive quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts.
Without a tight end drafted, mind you.
That is true. So now we are at the 9-12.
Yeah, that's me.
Things are getting a little shallow in the draft, and we've got multiple rounds left to go.
Yeah. So first guy I'm going to pick here, I'm going to go Jameson Williams.
All right, a little high upside explosiveness from Detroit.
Think so. Former first rounder, guy's fast as hell. Seems like he's having a good camp, which was much different than what we heard from last year. They need someone to stretch the defense a little bit. Amon-Ra eats in the middle and the intermediate routes. They have Laporta there as well. Have someone who can take the top off and catch a deep bomb. That's Williams. I'll take him right now as my 4th receiver.
Yeah, nothing wrong with doing that.
And the other guy I'm going to pick is kind of just on a hunch. I kind of feel like Blake Corum for the Rams at running back could be solid this year. And I don't really know why. He was really good in Michigan. He's just a solid back. There's nothing special about him other than he just gets the job done. And call it a safety net for Kyron Williams, who has
you're kind of hoping that Kyron runs into a wall there, because Kyron's been fighting to stay on the field.
He's the guy, right?
Much they love to use him. They did say they want to spell him a little bit, and Blake Corum be the guy. So you're kind of putting that blanket on there that Kyron can't stay on the field there with Blake. Yeah,
and the only other reason why I'm kind of picking them is the Rams just seem to have some bad luck history around them where running backs get injured. The last time they had back-to-back years of the same leading rusher was 2018, 2019, Todd Gurley. I went Cam Akers, Sony Michel, Cam Akers, Kyron Williams. So it's just one of those things where it's, I don't know, are they cursed? I don't know, but it just seems like if there is an injury, I don't see there being a huge drop off just because of how McVay has his running schemes.
Yeah,
I think Corn would fit.
He loves to lean on his lead rusher for sure. But
He does.
So you're banking on a Williams injury, but
100% banking on.
But Corum can be a league winner if he takes over that lead role because he does all the same things that Kyron Williams does. So after Corum, we go David Njoku, Justin Herbert at quarterback goes to team 10. I'm going to take another super boring pick here. I'm going to take Gus Edwards. He's going to just kind of more solidify my running back room. If the Chargers offensive line improves like I think it is going to, Edwards is going to do his thing and just punch in a bunch of touchdowns. So I can use him in spot starts. I'm not really going to rely on him all that much. So after Edwards is Tua Tagovailoa, goes to team 8, team 9, team 7, takes TJ Hawkinson, coming back from injury eventually. And then Ezekiel Elliott still going in the 10th round for some reason to team 6. John's on the clock with his 10th round pick at the 10.8. After doubling down on running backs on his last 2 picks with Eckler and Ford, where are you thinking here, John?
Yeah, I want to take. Yeah, I see value right now in taking Zach Charbonnet, just because of Kenneth Walker being my second running back. I'm not seeing the field, but I've heard really good things about Josh Downs in camp, and I love the strategy of having connection. I don't have that yet with my quarterback, so I'm going to hope that the injury that Downs has in camp right now isn't long term, and I'm going to take him as my flex possible wide receiver.
Little high ankle sprains, those go away quickly, right?
Yeah.
So I think Josh Downs,
he can stay on my bench for a little bit, so we'll see how that goes.
What's good is there's not a rush, right? There's not a rush to get him back. It's not like playoff push have to go. It's just going to be a matter of like if it's week 8, it's week 8, and he comes back.
Yeah, you got a good training crew over there. They'll get him back in the field there, John. So after Josh Downs went Dallas Goedert, Jared Goff, another team doubling down on quarterbacks. Dalton Schultz goes at the 10-11, putting Eric with his back-to-back picks on the board.
Yeah, I think it's about time that I get a quarterback here. I wanted to get, so first of all, I was hoping Kyler Murray would drop to me. He didn't. After none of the really super elite mobile upside quarterbacks were gone, like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, or Josh Allen, I was hoping, hey, maybe Kyler Murray can drop to me. And after that, I was like, all right, maybe Jaden Daniels will drop to me. And after, I was like, well, he just got taken. So I don't really have anybody who's got mobile upside, which is kind of what I want in a quarterback because that provides a nice floor to them. The only one that I kind of have would be Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's not an elite runner, but he's going to get a couple rushing touchdowns and maybe a few hundred rushing yards, and he'll probably put up some decent enough passing stats for a quarterback that I'm going to take in round 10. So we'll take him as my round 10 once I get unpaused here. Any thoughts?
I mean, you're out of quarterback options at this point. That's the only problem with doing these drafts with bots is they just started doubling down. So he is by far the best option available.
Yeah. And right now, Devin, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm in round 11. Here is where I want guys with upside who could potentially have big roles on the team. There is Zach Moss is considered to be the number 1 guy on the Bengals right now, but I am very, very high as my 5th running back. I feel very, very comfortable taking Chase Brown. He is another guy who, like Jaylen Warren, can supplant himself as the RB1 as the season goes on because the guy he's a fairly decent running back with amazing speed. Again, as I mentioned, the only thing I think he needs to unlock himself as the running back 1 for that team is to pass block to be the every down back. The guy is very strong, 25 bench press reps in the combine for a running back. That is amazing. As long as they teach him how to do it, and hopefully he can, I'm going to take Chase Brown with my first pick in the 11th round.
Yeah, right around ADP, so I can't really argue with that about getting him in the 11th. The upside is there. That's followed by Curtis Samuel out of Buffalo. Cortland Sutton out of Denver.
Ooh, Zach Charbonnet right before John's pick.
I know that was gonna affect too. All right,
Zach
give me a second
Charbonnet goes
here.
right before John. So John obviously back on the clock after taking Josh Downs in the last round. There's some exciting names here, John. Who are you thinking?
I'm gonna take J.K. Dobbins, take a flyer, see if he's gonna hold up.
God, I just absolutely do not hate that pick. I was gonna take him a few rounds later than you did, but like if he's healthy, like J.K. Dobbins proved at the start of last year that he is more like super explosive. Again, another massive injury. So
Yeah,
really
I mean, who knows? Who knows
do.
what we'll see? It's funny that both him and Gus came from Baltimore and landed both at the Chargers.
With the same coaches, that's why.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Switch out the Harbaugh, but the same offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, so the next picks kind of killed my strategy. I was hoping to take either one of Romero Dubs or Adonai Mitchell. I'm actually starting to get much higher in Adonai Mitchell. And then Khalil Shakir, another option out of Buffalo goes. So I am stuck on the clock trying to make a panic pick here.
Yeah.
I don't love doing this, but I'm going to take just solidify my running backs even more, even though I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to take Chuba Hubbard because he's going to be the starter in Carolina for at least the first few weeks as the rookie gets healthy. So I'll just select Chuba Hubbard and just have someone I can plug and play for a little bit before we move on. So after Chuba Hubbard, we go Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Lockett, and we're back to a back and forth with Craig here.
Yeah, this is kind of where I like to just throw random darts and see if something hits. So I mean, yeah, the next few picks after this should be kicker and defense if you do anything other than what Devin does. So I'll just go ahead and I'll pick Rico Dowdle for Dallas just because he could end up being the number one running back for that team.
Yeah.
And you get a number one running back this late, then why not? And the other guy, and this is just, again, assuming that Ayuk does get traded. I really liked Ricky Purcell coming out of the draft. So I don't think that's a terrible pick here for some upside in that offense that likes to pass the ball.
Yeah, definitely some upside there and a path to getting more targets. So I like that pick. I'm going to double down on what I said earlier. Sorry, after Pearsall went Cole Kmet and Michael Williams coming back from injury. Now with the New York Jets, I'm going to keep going with my Packers theory of I just want pieces. So I'm going to reach for Dontavian Wicks.
Oh, you have the connection.
I have the connection now. So after Dontavian Wicks, when Kundry Miller not getting good reports in New Orleans, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver Kirk Cousins, John is already on it, grabbing Jacoby Myers, Xavier Legette, the rookie in Carolina, Luke Musgrave, another Green Bay connection there, goes at the 12-10. 12-11 was Rashid Shaheed, 12-11, and now Eric is on his back-to-back here at the 12-12 and the 13-1.
Yeah, okay. So Craig took the guy I wanted to take in Dowdle. So, I mean, I think at this point, I mean, gosh, I've got 5 running backs already. I've got 4 wide receivers. You'd think I kind of maybe want to balance out my wide receivers a little bit. This is where I don't mind, at least based on the computer's ADP, kind of reaching a bit and maybe getting some value because, frankly, we're in round 12 and 13 here. So I think what I'm going to do is, just as a guy who I know is very, very talented, and if Bijan Robinson happens to get hurt, a guy who can be very, very effective, I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Algier here as the last pick in round 12. And my very next pick is the guy that goes kind of right after him. He has been hailed so far as the best wide receiver in Patriots camp. He's a guy that, you know, he's a second-round rookie that the Patriots drafted this year, and probably gets overshadowed by the amazing talent in the first round that was taken this year. But the fact is, this guy could have the best hands out of all the guys that were drafted in the draft this year. And he's incredibly good at making sure that he can catch balls downfield, and that is the New England wide receiver Jalen Polk. For my first round in pick 13, I'll reach for him a little bit for the upside because he's going to be my wide receiver 5.
Yeah, I
I
do
do not
love
hate that.
what Jalen Polk brings to the table. So Aaron Rodgers finally gets drafted after every other quarterback in the league gets drafted. The exciting rookie, Jalen Wright, go out of Miami, gets drafted to team 3 at the 13-3. I kind of like that as an upside pick. Joshua Palmer going at the 13-4. Could be the Chargers' leading receiver. Don't really know what their passing offense is going to be. John, back on the clock. Deep in
Thinking about
thought.
it. Thinking about it again.
Since we're getting this late, I'm no longer pausing. So if you time out, time out.
8, 7.
Take
There
a
we
shot
go.
at Gabe Davis.
Oh, gross.
Just in case.
So Gabe Davis goes to John. Taysom Hill, my infamous last pick from last year. Brandon Cooks actually not a bad pick this late, as he could be the backup receiver in Dallas. Marshawn Lloyd would have been my pick. The rookie out of Green Bay, already having fumbling issues though, so I'm kind of a little bit turned off of what he is bringing. I'm just going to take a little high upside running back here with Jaleel McLaughlin and see if he can break something off every now and then. Right after Jaleel goes Ty Chandler. Troy Franklin puts Craig back on the board.
Troy Franklin, terrible pick.
Terrible pick.
Terrible pick.
Great pick in Isaiah Likely. If Mark Andrews goes down, this guy could be a league winner.
That's not the guy.
Well, Craig considers his next pick. He has doubled down on tight end with Jake Ferguson and a high upside in Isaiah Likely if something should happen to Mark Andrews.
I'm telling you, he's a league winner. If something does happen to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely could be a league winner for you.
In the games that Mark Andrews did not play, Isaiah Likely was the tight end 4, so you're not too far off there.
That's kind of what I'm going with.
Yeah.
Just some Andrews insurance, even though I don't have it.
Ooh. So Craig Snakes Wilson, probably the wide receiver 2 out of Arizona. Actually, I probably shouldn't have taken him because I already have so many Cardinals on my team. Quentin Johnson, boo, goes next. Antonio Gibson. I'm going to go ahead and select Jermaine Burton. Too many injuries in Cincinnati. I'll take a high upside rookie this late in the draft to see what happens. Cade Otton. Don't often see Otton get drafted. Goes next. Monty Vidal, the rookie running back in LA, followed by Ray Davis in Buffalo. Puts John back on the board as we're getting real deep into things.
Yeah, so I picked him last year, and he performed well, so I'm going to pick him one round above now.
Yeah. This is why we're still here.
Son of a bitch.
Bobo.
I was about to take Elijah Mitchell as a handcuff, but then the guy before me took him. I cannot believe it. Absolutely cannot believe it. All right, so
I really need to fill that IR spot, Eric?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, geez, who do I take now?
I mean, after John went was Jake Bobo, then Baker Mayfield, a little high upside backup quarterback, Tyron Tracy, receiver converted to running back in the Giants, and then Elijah Mitchell. So Eric, what's your pick?
For my wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For my wide receiver 6, is this going to be the year, Devin? Is this going to be the year that finally Rashad Bateman comes out and has his party?
According to Harbaugh, it definitely is.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think at this point, I don't really have anybody left in this friggin' draft that I actually had a plan. Like maybe this person would be good late round because basically everybody else has been taken. So I'm just gonna have a quick look at the list here and see maybe someone with a bit of upside in case someone gets injured, in case this, that, or the other thing.
There's a little Jahan Dotson there for you, baby.
Yeah, and that's the guy, one of the guys I was looking for. I think I just got to take him. I mean, round 15, wide receiver 7, Jahan Dotson.
Yep, he's hurt me too much, so I'm off. I think Khalil Herbert as the next pick that went off of Dotson in the 15th round is pretty hilarious. Kind of a deep running back room in Chicago, but hopefully he gets traded somewhere useful. Braylon Allen, the backup in New York, the backup running back. Ben Sinnott, an exciting rookie tight end out of Washington, leads up to John's last pick. We only you have no more Bobos. A big upside pick here, John.
We're taking Bucky Irving. Let's go.
Bucky Irving, who I know Eric is super high on. Damian
boo.
Pierce follows that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the other backup in Chicago, Roshan Johnson, finishes that up. Since our team's setup is so deep, I'm actually going to take a backup quarterback here. And I'm going to take a little flyer here on Geno Smith. I think this offense just leads to what he is able to do is throw the ball deep. So I'll just stash him on my bench and see what happens. After Geno Smith, we got Audric Estime, the rookie in Denver, Madison, the backup in Vegas, and Craig. Mercifully, finish this off.
All right. So before I make my pick, I was just looking to see what kind of wide receivers are available still. Oh my God, the list. There are some names in here you would not expect. Turns out Henry Ruggs is available to pick in this draft.
Whoa!
Perfect.
And he's going before Sky Moore.
Wow.
Well, you better pick him then.
There's also Antonio Brown is available, Michael Crabtree, Robert Woods, Julian Edelman. Anyways, all to say, I'm going to pick running back, I think. And I'm just going to take a dart throw at Isaiah Garendo from San Fran.
Yeah,
Last
could
pick.
be
Here we go.
the new backup in San
But
Fran
seriously,
if Elijah
what the
Mitchell can't stay
Antonio
healthy.
Antonio Brown is still getting picked.
I just want, before we end the call, to congratulate John on his last pick of taking Bucky Irving from the Tampa Bay Lightning, a undersized, unathletic running back, where the only metric that he rated above average at the combine was his hand size. Bold strategy.
And he can't even skate. He
And
can't even skate. What a plug. What a plug.
All right, guys. I think we've run on long enough. We're not going to do a recap of the teams. We'll just post up some pictures, get some feedback from you guys going forward.
I won.
What do you think about our teams?
I
Craig, we're not going to put you in charge of tracking this like we did last year because you did not do it.
I did not track it.
Yeah.
You should do it.
I will maybe do it. We'll see. Thanks so much for your time, guys. This was great. Very good times.